It's kind of overview of your guys and how they have evolved as maybe as a position group over the first couple games and until now. And it seems like Nate is the one's getting more and more comfortable.
Yeah, Nate's done a great job, especially, his first time playing. And, he's a redshirt freshman, and you can see the progression over the first 6-7 games of the season where early in the year he's making some of those freshman mistakes, and he's really started to cut a lot of those out. He's making plays in the pass game over the last couple of weeks, making tough catches. But between him and Josh, both those guys give fanatical effort. They play their butts off. They play for the most part mistake-free football. Nate had a couple busts last game, but I think that's a product of a guy I think the nerves get to him sometimes, and his brain starts going a little fast. But he's got to calm. He's doing a better job of calming down. But those guys they're starting to be better players for us. They're doing a great job in the run game. But you're always the consistency factor is there with those guys, and they're blocking their butts off, and they're not showing up in a bad way. The last time you saw Joey the other night made a heck of a catch on the sideline. He's starting to come into his own a little bit at the position. You've seen that grow early in the season. The nerves would get to him when he was in the game a little bit, and you'd see he was getting a little frustrated. But over the last couple of weeks, he's really shown at practice where he's operating in a good manner. He's operating at a high level in terms of his alignment, his assignment, his effort, because he does give us something in the pass game. He's a heck of an athlete. They can go make plays, and I've got to do a good job of finding ways to get him in and get him in the right situations and get him the ball.
Frequently talks about the one-game season and the mentality of that, and then there's always the next game to play. But when you have a win of this magnitude for just a few minutes, can the staff kind of let go and really kind of relish what you'd accomplished on that occasion?
For a few minutes, yeah. It's tough for a few minutes because at the end of the day, we all know, especially Coach Brown's preached it for 10, 11 years, as long as I've been with him. It's a one-game season because you've got to be able to cycle these things out, have a 24-hour rule, celebrate it, get through it, whether it's a win or a loss. You can't let one game affect the next game in a negative way. And we got to go to Pittsburgh. We're going to have our hands full. They're a top 20 defense in the country right now, and they're playing well on that side of the football. And so as big of a win as that is, you've got to be able to cycle that out and move on to the next opponent and not let that affect you going forward.
On that a little bit, you've been with Coach Brum for a while. A couple of those top 5, top 10 wins, you guys didn't win the next week at Purdue. What do you feel like as a staff you learned from those games?
I think it's kind of to the point that you've got to be able to cycle that out of your mind, and you've got to learn from your mistakes in the past game. You've got to build off what you did well and be able to hone that in and shift your focus to the next opponent quickly. And I think that for me as a coach, that starts with me. And I've got to go into that position room tomorrow when we have practice, when we meet with the guys, and, hey, we're on to Pitt, and all the focus has to be on Pitt. It can't be on the last week, the next week, anything like that. And I think it's more of a shift in focus, and you can't live in the past in this sport, because if you do that, it's going to come back to bite you.
You mentioned Pitt's a top 20 defense. Coach Narduzzi is known as a defensive guy. What in particular are they good at and pose the biggest challenge?
I think they've been really good against the pass this year. I think looking at their numbers, they're top 15 in pass yards allowed. They've done a good job of stopping the run, and they're just solid over there. You can tell that they play fast. They're big up front. They're physical players. They get to the ball well. They're safeties and they're DBs. They trigger well in the run. They get in the run fits right. And they're going to present a challenge, and we've got to be able to be ready for it.
Brian, for your guys, when you have 9 guys catch a pass in a game, and how much does that help them know that if they stay ready, if they get open, Jack will find them? You've been through this with this offense before, yeah. But with these kind of individual players here,
No, I think we've got a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and our guys understand that. They understand that they've got to do their role, and it's something that my dad preached to me early on. He's like, you got to prove to be reliable, and your time may not come. I don't know when we caught our first pass this season, maybe in the second or third game, but when that time comes, you're expected to make a play, and you've got to do something with it. You've got to be consistent. because you don't know. The ball's going to get spread around in this offense depending on what the defense is giving us game in, game out. I mean, there may be games where, we've got a receiver with 150 yards, or maybe games where we've got to carry the load a little bit. There may be games where Jawar's got to carry the load a little bit, and they understand that it's a team sport, and they've got to be ready to go. But you can't let your foot off the gas, because on a play that you normally don't get the ball on, you might be the guy that pops open. You got to be ready to go. You can't just relax. So.
Talked about obviously not getting too high, too low. Is there a moment for you in your career that you can kind of point to as an example of, providing that perspective and kind of helping to not get to that point?
I think a lot as a young coach, I let my emotions get to me a little bit, and I'd get too high or we'd get too low, and you start to see that as you go into your coaching career goes along. You see how that affects your players, and it starts with me keeping my emotions in check, and that's something we preach before the game, is like, don't get too high, don't get too low, because one play can affect the next four, whether it's positive or negative. You got to be able to come off the field, and because we knew that game was going to be a 4-quarter game, and every game is from here on out, and you can't let your emotions get to you and affect you in either way. You've got to stay in the game. You've got to stay focused on the next play, and that's something that's been big in our room.
How would you describe Jeff's personality?
He's an intense guy, but he does it in the right way. The guys know that he's a competitor. He wants to win. They see that. They know that he'll go to the ends of the earth for them, and they're going to follow that. But I think his intensity and his competitiveness really spreads throughout our locker room, and you can see our guys, the more they've been around, the more the season's kind of gone along, is they're starting to feed off that, and they're starting to reflect the personality that Coach carries with them. Because Coach can have fun too. He can tell some jokes every now and then. He's pretty good at that. But he's an intense guy, and when it comes time to go, he's there, and he expects them to be there. And I think they've done a good job of picking up his personality and kind of feeding off of that and following him.
Brian, you talked in the preseason about Jamari, and just obviously pretty new to the position of tight end. How has he progressed, and how do you keep a guy like that mentally kind of ready to go? He's such a young guy and hasn't played the position, but you were just talking, and Coach Brown was talking about next man up, and you have to be ready. How do you keep him mentally going?
I think it's something that Jamari and I have talked about it. I know he's not getting the reps that he wants right now, but he understands why. It's the consistency factor of whether it's consistent effort, consistent being mentally consistent in missed assignments and stuff like that, understanding the speed of the game and understanding how to practice. And I think that, and he's fed into that. He's bought in. He wants to be good, and he's progressed over the last couple of weeks. And I think having guys like Nate and Josh in that room, he can see how the effort that they put into it. And Jamari's a talented player, and at some point this season, his time is going to come, and he knows that. And we preach it to him every week that when it does come, you have to be ready. You can't go in and it'd be a shock to you, like, oh crap, I wasn't prepared for this week. And he's done a great job. I'll commend him for that. He's done a great job of staying in it. He's continuing to work hard. He's continuing to get better. But it's some of that stuff just having played the position for a couple of years and being new to it, that some things aren't coming as natural as maybe he wants. But that's stuff that we've got to continue to harp on, continue to hone in on. He's getting a lot of reps during the week. We're trying to, because he's a guy that we need to get better. We need to progress.
Everything that Joey's been through in his career, what can a catch like he had the other night, what can that do for him? At playing a different position, and
I think it does wonders for his confidence, because even he caught the touchdown against Murray State, and then from then on we tried to get him some things, and he probably wasn't playing as much. He's a 6-year player that's, he's probably wasn't playing as much as he wanted to, but I think getting a play like that in a tight game against an opponent like that, that's a big boost for his confidence going forward. And I think that he understands that the faster he operates, the more natural he operates, the more he's going to be able to get on the field. And that's something that I think it does wonders for him, just whether it's in the pass game or run game or anything like that, just being able to show him that he can do it. He knows he can. He knows the talent that he has, but I think that's a big boost for his confidence.
If you have a big win like that, there's obviously some benefits from a recruiting standpoint. Did you have any feedback Sunday from prospects about what that game meant to them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, anytime we had a great group of prospects here. I think we had almost 100 or so here, and a lot of those guys that were on pretty hard. And anytime you can have a victory like that against that type of opponent, and you get the fans are rushing the field, and those guys are out there, they're taking videos of it, and I mean they had a blast. I mean, and that really amplifies you on a national level, and you're able to kind of grow from that. And sometimes that puts you in a different tier of prospect that you're recruiting, but at the same time, I mean that's big for your program and going forward, not only in the just really in the recruiting department, but just how people, your perception nationally. So, thank you.